Hey everybody, my name is Marcella Dominguez and I am a lawyer helping businesses online and offline. If you are planning on starting your business sooner rather than later, then you want to know if you need a lawyer to start your business. We are going to be covering three very important topics like what type of business do you have? The type of business that you have will perhaps dictate what kind of lawyer you need, if you even need a lawyer at all. We're also going to be talking about your level of confidence in doing research when it comes to your business. How comfortable are you with doing research? And if you do decide to hire a lawyer, we are going to be talking about when you would hire a lawyer. What would you actually need a lawyer for? These are the most commonly overlooked circumstances in which you should be considering a lawyer. First, let's talk about what kind of business you're going to start. If you're going to start an online business, for example, you might or might not be using assistants. Are those assistants located within the United States or are they located outside of the United States? So why do I ask this question? Well, if they are located outside of the United States, then maybe a more basic virtual assistant agreement will be all that you need. So you won't necessarily need to go to a lawyer for that because you could just go to mydiylegalshop.com where you will be able to download the virtual assistant agreement and give it to your virtual assistant. Now let's face it, when you hire a virtual assistant, you are going to have to place a lot of trust in that person because if you wanted to sue them for something bad that they've done, it is going to be a lot more difficult to serve somebody who is overseas, who perhaps is not even subject to the jurisdiction in which you live or in which you do business. So the trust that you have in that VA is going to be so critical, even more so, I feel, and that is just my opinion, than the level of trust you would have to have in somebody who is local. Because somebody who is local or who is going to be coming to your place of business every day, or somebody who is located where you live, even if they're working virtually but they live in the United States, then they are more easily subject to jurisdiction than somebody who is outside of the United States. And most of the time you won't be wanting to go out of your way to sue somebody for a couple of hundred, even a couple of thousands of dollars when they're overseas, because it's probably going to cost you more money to sue them than it would to actually reap some kind of benefit. So the level of trust that you have in an overseas assistant is going to really be so critical and so important to answering this question. Is my business going to require that I hire people in person or virtually? You see, if you have the type of business where you're going to be working solo and you're not really going to be hiring anybody, then perhaps you will not need to see an attorney for contract-related purposes. If you already know from the get-go that you want to be hiring people, then perhaps you will need to see a lawyer because you want a more substantive employment agreement as opposed to, let's say, a virtual assistant agreement. So if you're going to hire people in person, then you would not be using a virtual assistant agreement. A virtual assistant agreement is usually reserved for assistants that are out of the country. And like I said, you are going to have to place a heavy level of trust in them. So if you want to have some kind of template so that you don't just hire somebody, by word of mouth or just through a virtual handshake, then make sure that you go to DIY Legal Shop and you secure your virtual assistant agreement. So if you're somebody that is actually hiring people to come to your place of work, then I would suggest you have an employment agreement. And an employment agreement is definitely something that a lawyer can help you with. But first you need to determine whether or not you're actually going to be hiring people. Now, depending on the type of business that you're going to start, you might also need a license or a permit. Different kinds of businesses require licenses and permits with your local county. Now, this is something that a lawyer can help you obtain, and this is also something that a lawyer can help you ascertain. If you're not good with doing legal research, then going to a lawyer might help save you time. They'll tell you exactly what permits you need, or they can do the research for you and tell you what licenses you need. Because if you start operating a business without a license or without a permit and you actually need the license or the permit, and being fined could have been avoided had you just hired a professional to help you determine exactly what you needed from the get-go. So do you need a lawyer for your new small business that you're starting? Well, that is going to depend on whether your business requires a certain type of license or a certain type of permit within your county or within your state. Now, being a business and a trademark lawyer, I can tell you that there are lots of business owners that also need a lawyer to help them protect their brand, their slogan, their logo, their tagline, or even a sound. Now, if you're of the position that you do not want to start selling your product or your service because you're afraid somebody might take it from you, if you want to make sure that it's protected before you put it out there, then yes, you would need a trademark lawyer to help you protect it. Now, there are other people that are like, no, I just don't have that kind of money for a lawyer. I need to just start selling my product or service first with the logo and the business name that I have. In which case, you know, you could look at DIY Legal Resources, which again, you can find at DIYLegalShop.com or go to trademarkanything.com. But I can tell you that there are lots of business owners that want to make sure that it is done correctly, especially if you're not sure whether you are going to sell your products or services before your mark is actually protected. So if you're not sure, but you want to make sure of what you're doing, then make sure that you scroll down into the description and we can have a consultation. So if you are just starting your business, it may or may not be important to you to protect that logo or to protect that business name. Why? Well, some people heavily invest in a business name and they don't want to put it out there without it being protected. Okay, there are people who think long and hard about their slogan and they don't want anybody else to steal it, in which case it is going to be important to you to speak with a trademark lawyer no matter the cost. But I understand that there are lots of you out there that are also bootstrapping it, and if that is you, then I want to make sure that by watching this video, your question is answered. Do I need a trademark lawyer to help me protect my brand from the onset? And if that is the case for you and you don't have a lot to spend, then I suggest you watch this video in the trademark playlist.
Do you need a lawyer to help you with your product-based business or your service-based business?
For example, if you have a product-based business and you are importing products from overseas, then you might need a lawyer to explain what's happening with your products when you import them. I can tell you that as someone who has started a product-based business with Stowy Joey and a service-based business with the law firm, you encounter different issues. It's so helpful if you have someone who is a couple of steps ahead of you or who can advise you or warn you about what's ahead. I hope that by watching this video, you will learn a bit more than you did before you started watching, because I know that would have been valuable for me to know when I started my business.
Can you rely on your own research, or do you need a lawyer to start a business?
I think it's really important to be honest with yourself and ask yourself the question, how comfortable am I doing the legal research on my own? And not only that, but is doing the research going to be the same as speaking to a lawyer? Google is great, but you might get varied answers, and the facts and circumstances of each researcher vary across the board. So are someone else's facts the same as they are for you? Are the answers going to vary a bit? You don't know what you don't know, right? As lawyers, we err on the side of caution. So if you are unsure, find a way to ask a lawyer. Find a way to get an answer from a lawyer. In my podcast, The AM Show for Entrepreneurs, I interview some really awesome business owners who share how they navigated legal and business issues. Make sure to watch this playlist right here and choose the interview that speaks to you. If you want to learn more about what it takes to start an online business, then make sure to watch this video, because it will be a great follow-up to this video and it will help you understand more about your online or offline business.